Survival's the name of the game, and that flag is mine.
Hello and welcome to episode 51 of the How to Survive podcast. My name is Chris, and joining me as ever for the 51st time is Joe Sherville.
Hello, thank you. 51st Dates is a movie.
Yes, as is the 51st state.
Yep.
And what is the state of affairs today, Joe? What film are we covering?
Well, you'll be glad to know, Chris, we're heading all the way back to Camp Forest Green, which you'll remember from those other films we did.
Yeah, better known as
Camp Crystal Lake.
That's right, it's that time again. It's episode 6 of our coverage of the Friday the 13th franchise.
Yeah, every 10 episodes, as is How to Survive Law now. Law now.
Is that L-A-W law or L-O-R-E law?
Why not both?
Why not?
It's enforceable by the survival police.
Yeah.
Who are us.
Yes. Okay, well, if you haven't listened to the How to Survive podcast before, welcome. We operate a tight ship here at HMS HTS, and we will be spoiling the film if you haven't seen it. So if you haven't seen Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives...
I think it's actually called Jason Lives Friday the 13th Part 6.
Okay, well, either way, then go away and watch it, or if you're not bothered about the story, then listen away.
And you shouldn't be.
Yeah, because we're going to be talking about it in depth, and obviously later on we're going to be talking about how we would survive if we were in the film. It's our staple of the podcast, and yeah, that'll be coming up in the second half of the show. So first of all, Joe, let's recap the plot. Now, can you remember where Friday the 13th Part 5 A New Beginning left us?
I can. So we have to tell that story, we need to begin Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. Tommy Jarvis, the child Tommy Jarvis, had just killed Jason Voorhees, and he was dead.
Yes.
Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning, begins with a now adult Tommy Jarvis staying in a...
psychiatric hospital?
Yeah, exactly. Out in the woods, where teenagers start turning up dead, Chris, as is tradition in these movies. And all the signs point to it being Tommy Jarvis channeling Jason Voorhees. He keeps having hallucinations about Jason Voorhees. Yeah. He dreams about him all the time. He's obviously obsessed with Jason Voorhees. All he talks about is Jason Voorhees. Yeah. But no, it wasn't Jason Voorhees. It was the paramedic, Roy Burns.
Yeah. Who, if you're watching the film for the first time, is such an incidental character. You don't even recognise him when he props up later in the beginning.
Yeah, they did like a big mask pull off. Yeah. And it's like, who is that?
Yeah. And then of course the film ends, Joe, you'll remember, with on a sobering note when Tommy's newfound female friend goes to see him in hospital, and he's hiding behind the door wearing Jason's mask,
and he kills her. Oh, he's left to the imagination.
But it's definitely implied that he murders her, right? Yeah. Well, you'll be happy to know that at the start of Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, they abandoned that plotline entirely.
I think they retcon the entire movie, right?
Well, I don't know. It's difficult to say. I think it is literally just the part about the part that has been building up for 2 films, which is that Tommy is going to become Jason Voorhees. Yeah. They abandoned that completely. So, Tommy Jarvis, played by the 3rd different actor in 3 movies, returns to the foggiest town in America, Crystal Lake. Now renamed Forest Green in an attempt to dissociate itself from its bloody history.
Yeah, very bloody indeed.
Seemingly having abandoned the murderous urges he found at the end of A New Beginnings, Tommy seeks closure by digging up Jason Voorhees' corpse as proof that he remains deceased. However, this goes badly wrong, Joe. When a lightning bolt strikes the open coffin, resurrecting Jason, Tommy flees to the local police department, who predictably think that Tommy is insane. We then see 2 camp counsellors on the way to Camp Forest Green, the newly renamed Camp Crystal Lake, when they are murdered suddenly by Jason, who then goes on to murder a group of paintballers, a young couple, and a local gravekeeper. And the finger of blame, Joe, ends up pointed at Tommy.
Naturally.
However, when murders continue to take place, even though Tommy is in custody, it becomes clear all too late to the police department that the newly undead Jason is responsible. Tommy teams up with Megan, the sheriff's daughter, and races to Camp Crystal Lake to avert another massacre. However, they are too late to save all of Megan's friends and most of the local police department. Tommy is sure that by returning Jason's body to the lake, he will finally be at peace, and following a struggle, manages to tie Jason to a boulder which traps him on the lake's bed. Jason continues to struggle, but is eventually dragged under after Megan mutilates him with a boat's propeller. Tommy is relieved as his ordeal is finally over, but underneath the surface, Jason continues to await his revenge. And that's how Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives concludes.
Yeah.
With Jason lying in wait underneath the surface of Camp Crystal Lake, or Camp Forest Green, or Camp Blood, depending on what you call it.
Yeah, same shit, different shovel, that's what I say.
So I think it's fair to say that we went into this film having seen 5 Friday the 13th movies already with low expectations.
Yes.
Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it's become a bit of a joke among How to Survive fans.
Yeah.
That we suffer through these movies so that whenever we tweet about, we've got another one coming up, the tweets come in saying, like, ha ha, tough luck, all this stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
And the joke's on you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, against all the odds, this is actually an alright film.
Yeah, alright. I mean,
alright, yeah. I mean, the problem, after initially when I first watched it, I was like, this is great. This is really good. And then I think it was just, compared to my level of expectation for the film, it was much better, but it's still, I
mean, after the last one, which had the twist that Roy Burns was the paramedic, and also the hillbilly family. I mean, we had some real horrible.
That was like the
horrible,
nadir of the franchise.
Yeah, and this is a peak.
Yeah. This is the first film in the franchise to receive positive reviews since the first film.
Mm-hmm.
However, this has to be placed into context, obviously.
Yeah.
Because the average rating is still 5 out of 10.
On Rotten Tomatoes, I think it's 56%.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this is by no means a quality film.
No.
Film critic, renowned film critic Gene Siskel, described the film as the least offensive film of the most offensive film series ever.
Yeah, I'd go with that.
Yeah. So I think that's a fair assessment. Because, I mean, what would you say makes it good? Because I think that it becomes clear from the first couple of minutes of the film that this is the first film that I can remember from the franchise that is knowingly funny.
Yeah, it's grown a sense of humour.
Yeah.
There's a sense of comedic timing about what they say. Like, they've tried jokes before, but either they're completely nonsensical, like they're a line that they thought sounded funny but actually doesn't work when they put it in the film, or the actors are so bad they can't deliver the line properly.
Yeah.
But in this one, they seem to have hired comedy actors because they want to go full comedy. Yeah. And it really works.
Well, like, if you think back to the previous films, they're always like the Joker teenager, the comic relief teenager, and they're always by far the worst people in the film.
Yeah, and they're never funny.
Yeah. Whereas all of the characters in this film are funny.
Yeah.
And they are for once they're semi-entertaining people to be watching on screen.
Yeah.
And like that's clear from the first scene in the graveyard where Tommy goes to dig up Jason's coffin to check that he's still dead, basically, because like the tone gets outlined from that first scene
by his friend who's kind of his foil, and he does like very overpronounced cartoony gestures,
but it can basically, the film abandons any pretense of it being taken seriously, and that's such a relief to, if you're watching it like we are. Like, knowing that one is on the horizon at all times is such a relief to watch it. And like within the first 5 minutes, I was like, okay, I think I'm with this film. Yeah. For the first time since the first film in the series, I think I'm with this. Like, Tommy's friend, who he's with, gets killed by Jason when Jason gets resurrected by a bolt of lightning.
Yeah.
Right? And Jason kills him by punching his heart through his chest, and the impact of that then makes his friend fly into an open coffin, which then shuts on him. Yeah. And it's like that's like something you get in an Austin Powers movie.
Yeah, it's great.
It's so welcome though. It's such a welcome shift in tone for the film to take.
And he's probably that death, the first one in the film, is probably the most clever murder to date in the series. I mean, we call it a slasher series because all the deaths so far have been Jason or his mother or Roy Burns just lopping people with a machete.
Yeah, and always from like, it's always just, they turn around and then a machete's in their face or something like that. Yeah. And then directly after that, we've got a James Bond pastiche intro where it zooms into Jason's eye and then it does the gun barrel thing, but with Jason like walking.
Yeah. And instead of firing a gun, he slashes his machete.
Yeah. It's knowingly funny in like a meta-textual way, which you also see in one of the next scenes where there's a couple in their car on the way to Camp Forest Green and they're driving along and they stop suddenly because Jason is stood in the road and the driver of the car says,
I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
Like, that's basically predating Scream by 10 years. Like, that's an like, I know they don't have the same consistency of meta humour, but it's like the. And then the scene after that, there's like these weird Dad's Army paintballing squad where they're like running around, and it's like funny in a sort of soft, gentle way that's not like it's actually jokes instead of just like a
random person who like your particular bugbear with this series. I think is the hitchhiker from I think 3. Yeah, who's just a hitchhiker at the side of the road who for some reason is mute. And holds up a sign saying "fuck you." Yeah, and then gets killed off screen. Yeah,
and it's like it's basically so many of the scenes from the franchise have just been complete non sequiturs. Yeah, whereas even this, which is as non sequitory as any of the scenes in the film, this later comes back because they find the bodies. Yeah, they find the car. So there's nothing as wasted as that. As that hitchhiker scene.
Speaking of the funny parts, I think the gravedigger is probably the funniest character in this film. Right. He's got some pretty solid lines. Yeah. Like, he discovers that Jason's grave has been dug up. Yeah. And his immediate reaction is he doesn't want to lose his job. He says,
I'm a damn high school graduate. I deserve this job.
Yeah. And he begins to fill it in. Yeah. And then Tommy says to him, you need to dig that grave up. And he says,
dig him up? Does he think I'm a fart head?
It's a stupid line, but it's really funny delivered. And then when he dies, it's because he's drunk, he's an alcoholic. Yeah. And he drinks a bottle of whiskey and he throws it over his shoulder, but there's no smash. Yeah. And it's because Jason caught the bottle. And that's like, again, a very clever way to kill someone in a Friday the 13th film. Yeah, it's like playing up the trope of having like a hobo in a Bond movie and there's like a car chase going past and they like look at the bottle of booze that they're drinking. He's like that sort of character, isn't he? Yeah. But like that's so like are we mad for enjoying this film? Like have we broken? Yeah, have we been broken? Like is the franchise has finally taken its toll on us? Or is this like this is a proper shift in tone, isn't it? Yeah. Well, let's not get sycophantic. No. I just mean it's like it makes the film a much more engaging experience. It does. It wasn't painful to watch. No, exactly. I mean, there are still issues. Oh yeah. For instance, Tommy Jarvis. Yeah. Like you said, third actor in 3 movies in 3 years. The only time in history that's happened. He somehow went from catatonic psychopath in 5 to like James Bond. Yeah, he's very like, he's cool basically. Yeah, he's got a cool jacket. Yeah, and like and swagger, and the girls want him. Exactly. Yeah. There's when I say James Bond, the reason I say that is because there's a scene when he's in a police cell, and he grabs the girl and kisses her. Yeah, and initially she's like, oh no, but then during the kiss she's like, oh actually. Yeah, and that's a very James Bond thing to do. But I think even that is emblematic of the shift in tone. Yes. Because I think one of the problems with this franchise is that it's up until this point been taking itself really seriously, or it feels like it has anyway. Yeah. Whereas these films were never going to make credible horror movies ever, and basically this is a much better direction for the franchise, and as such I assume that they abandon it completely by the time the next film happens. I assume so. Yeah.
What is the next film, by the way? Is it Jason Takes Manhattan?
No, that's the one after. The next one is New Blood.
Right.
Then Jason Takes Manhattan.
There's one where he goes to hell.
Yeah, that's it. 9 is Jason Goes to Hell.
Right.
And then 10 is, of course, Jason X.
And what about... Yeah. No, hang on. It's 8 goes to hell, and then there's Freddy versus Jason, and then Jason X. Or...
Jason X is 2003.
Oh, you know all the Jason...
Yeah.
Jason movies off by heart.
I know because in 9, which is Jason Goes to Hell, I think...
Right.
That was only done so that they could basically tread water while they prepared to do Freddy vs. Jason.
Right.
And then I think Eddie got shelved because everyone's like, that's a stupid idea. So they made Jason X, which is like an even stupider idea.
Yeah.
And then they made Freddy vs. Jason anyway. So, we finally got what nobody wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also like nowhere near as leering as the previous films. So there's no sex. Or there's some...
One sex scene.
Yeah, with no nudity.
Yeah. Which is almost comedic in like how they're having sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's very little nudity or sexual content. The violence is toned down considerably.
The vast majority of the murders take place. They cut away before the impact.
Exactly, but I think that actually the presentation of it makes it much more effective.
Yeah.
There's a scene where Paula, who is one of Megan's friends, gets killed, and she gets sort of dragged inside a hut, and then there's like blood spraying across windows and all that sort of thing, and then she flies through a window and then is dragged back inside by Jason. Like, most of that happens off screen and is left to the imagination, but it's a very effective way of doing it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't lessen the impact of the horror. In fact, I'd imagine, well, I would say, if you compare it to the deaths in the previous films, actually makes it more effective than, a bad looking prosthetic machete wound and like really bright red blood spewing out.
So you mentioned Paula.
Yeah.
Should we do our traditional recap of the characters?
If you want to, yeah.
Okay, so Tom Matthews was Tommy Jarvis, who we know is Tommy Jarvis, Jennifer Cook is Sheriff's daughter.
Mm-hmm. Megan.
Mm-hmm.
Are you naming them? See, I've learned the names of the characters.
Really? Because they actually had depth.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we're just doing the one characteristic that you need to remember them. Yeah.
Kerry Noonan is Nice Girl.
Okay.
Renee Jones is Black Girl.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Fridley is Punk Guy.
Yeah.
Darcy DeMoss is Punk Guy's girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the camp counselors. Obviously, we have other characters like sort of blundering in, like the picnicking couple. They were quite funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's all the children as well.
Yes.
The first appearance of actual kids
in
a Friday the 13th film in the camp.
Other than Tommy Jarvis.
Yeah, well, but I mean like camp, what do you call them?
Goers.
Yeah.
Campers,
yeah. First appearance of actual campers in Camp Crystal Lake that we've seen since
By the way,
1956 or whatever it was.
Just mentioning, how old do you think Tommy Jarvis is?
Well, isn't he in his like late teens, I guess now?
So how old was
20s?
he in?
He was a teenager in 5, and this I presume takes place not long after 5.
Yeah, but how old was he in 4?
He was young, like 7 or something.
So there must be at least a 10-year difference. So we're talking about this movie must take place in the late 90s.
Right. Yeah. So this is a stark vision of the future 1990s back in 1986.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Tommy Jarvis is much better. His actor is better.
Yes.
Time.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's given a lot more to do. Didn't we count how many lines he had in the last film? It was like
13 words.
13 words or something in the last film. And obviously he's got a lot more to do, as you say, personality transplant.
Mm-hmm.
But Jason Voorhees, of course, is back. He took a little break for 5 because he was tagged out by Roy Burns, the infamous Roy Burns.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's back, and finally, Joe, and this is something that I've been begging for since I think maybe even the second movie, but definitely the third one onwards.
Yeah.
He is finally canonically supernatural.
Yep.
Which I'm so glad that we finally have confirmation of this because it gives an excuse for all of the mad shit that he's able to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think did bring him back? Or is it just like evil?
Yeah. Just
generic evil.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think you're supposed to give it much thought because his whole like skin is grey and like slipping off.
Yeah.
Because he's rotted in his coffin.
This is the
but
first
his eyes open and are fine.
Yeah,
like
that's
completely
fair.
fine.
Yeah. So the skin's gone, but the eyeballs are fine.
Yeah.
First movie, I think, where he hasn't been unmasked to reveal his ghastly visage.
Yeah.
Mm.
Where he starts off without mask though. When
True.
he first climbs out of the coffin, he's not wearing a mask. He's just like a leathery grey skull.
Yeah, even though seconds before, he was just a skeleton.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't think the film is inviting you to give it much thought. But like, you know, I always like to check in with Jason.
Yeah.
Every episode that we cover Friday the 13th film.
Every episode we don't as well. It's good to know.
Yeah, exactly. It's good to catch up with Jason.
Yeah.
So, you know, despite the fact that he's dead and been brought back to life, that hasn't affected his tactical acumen, Joe.
No, actually, this may be the first movie where he performs what might be called a tactical murder.
Which is what?
Hiding in the toilet in that RV.
Right, yeah.
And then he like coaxes the girl in.
Yeah.
And then uses that as a trap to coax the guy in.
Yeah.
Oh no, he goes out and kills him.
Goes out. Yeah, well, he also, let's not forget, ambushes the paintballers by dropping down from a tree.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's the sort of guerrilla tactics, the guerrilla warfare that we've come to associate with Jason. The surprise attacks and luring people into danger. He's very strong, once again. You know, throwing people around like rag dolls. One of my favourite bits of the film is when there's the... by the standards of this franchise, a very spectacular RV crash.
Yes.
And then...
Probably the most expensive part of the film, right?
Probably, yeah. Where two characters are driving an RV when they're murdered by Jason, basically, and it sort of rolls onto its side dramatically and
bursts into flame.
Yeah, and then literally 2 seconds after it stopped moving, Jason punches his way out of the side of the RV through a door. Just punches the door clean off.
Yeah,
just that sort of thing made me laugh as well.
So all that can be said about Jason, right?
Yeah,
He's certainly come on in terms of panache. He's got a bit more charisma about him now.
Yeah.
Rather than being... I mean, go back to 2 and he's just a man with a bag on his head.
Yeah, he's basically James Bond now.
Yeah. They're all turning into James Bond, aren't they? Tommy Jarvis, Jason Voorhees. But we're now in the 4th movie where Jason Voorhees has been the villain. Because obviously the first one was Pamela Voorhees. And the 5th one was... Roy Burns.
Yeah, famous Roy Burns.
World famous Roy Burns.
Yeah. When, like, you know, I think it's Comic-Con at the moment.
Yeah.
I bet everyone there is dressed up as Roy Burns.
Yeah.
They've got the paramedic overalls and all the other things that you associate with Roy Burns.
The mask.
Yeah. No, but that's Jason's mask. Joe,
yeah. The
harrow.
The harrow that he gets impaled on at the end. Do you know when they do like the Channel 4 like 100 greatest movie villains countdown?
Yeah, in number 1 every
number
year.
1 Roy Burns. Holding off like obviously Jason, Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers.
If you're not sure what we're talking about, by the way, obviously we went through it at the start of the show, but it really is worth going back and listening to episode 41 of the How to Fight podcast where we covered this, because it beggars belief the extent to which the Roy Burns twist comes out of nowhere, Joe.
Roy Burns obviously was in 5.
Yeah.
Pamela Voorhees was in 1. Yeah. Which means that Jason has been the main villain for 4 whole feature-length motion pictures.
Sure.
And yet he's never spoken a word.
No.
And I want to know, are there any characters in any film who have had as much screen time as Jason but never said a single word?
So you pre-warned me on this, and it's very hard to find concrete statistics about these things. But, you know, obviously you've got similar villainous characters like Michael Myers. So he appears in a lot of the Halloween franchise.
But not as many.
No, and also he is mute.
Yeah.
And then, you know, in terms of main characters, you've got people like Mad Max. Like, even in the original trilogy, Mad Max barely has any
he
lines.
does say a line.
Yeah, he does say exactly.
That wasn't out, Chris. Sorry, I'm not having him.
Well, and, you know, Jason Bourne as well. The new film, Jason Bourne, featuring Jason Bourne, which is... at the time of recording, by the time you listen to this, it will be out in cinemas.
Yeah.
We will be doing a sort of special video podcast as a little experiment about it.
Where we recreate in live action all the stunts I filmed in the film.
Yeah, so keep your eyes peeled for that, and go to @HowToSurvivePod on Twitter for further updates.
Or HowToSurviveShow.com, which is now updated after 20 weeks lying dormant.
Yeah. But apparently in this film, Jason Bourne has about 24 lines in the whole movie.
Really?
Yeah.
That's all he needs.
That's all he needs. He does it. He speaks with action.
Yeah, there's a man who could take advantage of the resources he's given.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why he's already in the How to Survive Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Along with Ellen Ripley.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So the answer is no, basically.
The answer is I couldn't think of anyone.
Okay. Well done to Jason for keeping his mouth shut.
All right. I thought you maybe would have, but you're not thinking of this person.
No. The Xenomorphs, maybe, but that's not one, is it? It's just many.
No, and also they're... Yeah.
You could call it... They go... Jason doesn't even make any noise.
No. I don't think he even... he doesn't...
If he groaned in this week...
Oh, I think actually at one point in one of them, doesn't he... He gets knocked to the floor by a 4'11" girl, and goes in the way that an old man whose back hurts makes a noise. But Jason lives once again, Joe.
Yeah,
and that of course presents a significant danger to anyone who might find themselves in the vicinity of
Camp Wood Green,
Camp Forest Green.
Yeah.
So it's that time of the show as ever. How would you survive the newly resurrected Jason Voorhees?
This one, Chris, I'll start with, is for Tommy Jarvis. And, in the past, he's come through.
Yeah.
He saved the day in 4 and in 5.
Yeah, he got lucky.
Yeah, but he's, he could be called the hero of the piece. And to a certain extent, in this one, he could be called the hero of the piece. But I put it to you that he was a victim of his own making in this film.
Right.
Because he single-handedly digs Jason up and then impales him with a spike, which acts as a lightning rod, which resurrects him. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know exactly how that works, and I'm sure Tommy couldn't have predicted it, but what possessed him to go there and dig up Jason in the first place? My point is, Tommy, whatever you're thinking of doing, don't do it, because it won't end well. Anything that involves Jason Voorhees' grave is not going to end well.
It does seem like you're asking for trouble. I mean, you have to wonder what state he's got himself into where he's convinced that this is the only thing that's going to solve his problems.
Yeah. I have to go and dig up the body of what I think is a man.
Yeah.
And, he takes gasoline with him, so he must intend to burn the body.
Yeah.
I think he says, I'm going to send him to hell. But...
Yeah.
Why?
I think it's just a closure thing, isn't it? It's if I do this, then I know that he's not ever coming back, because I've seen him, dispensed with my own eyes.
But that's not how delusions work. Surely the delusion would just be, he survived that as well.
Well, yeah, but he seems well adjusted aside from this one problem now.
Is Friday the 13th, Part 5, the final chapter, considered canon still?
I think it is, yeah.
Well, he's not sensible in that.
Yeah, but he's grown up.
In a matter of minutes, he's gone from being completely unable to face the real world because he's so overwrought with hallucinations.
Well, let's not forget he went from being on the verge of becoming a serial killer. Which, by the way, that is what they intended, obviously, originally. But they basically there was a negative audience reaction to that, so they abandoned that whole idea and just went, "Let's just bring Jason back."
That's better, yeah. I wish they'd sort of followed through so that Jason kills the other Jason. That would be.
Well, you had Jason's facing off.
Jason versus Jason.
Yeah. So would that have been a How to Survive suggestion? What, fight fire with fire?
Follow through.
Yeah.
Follow through on your plans to become Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Or just take the medication.
Yeah.
Because he's broken out of an institution to go there and dig up the body.
Yeah.
Any normal person who breaks out of an institution and goes and dig up a body, you'd say they're mental.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why his friend is
because he's also
enabling.
But
he's enabling him, and that's an unhelpful behaviour for someone who's got a mental illness.
Is there? Well, we're on the subject of Tommy.
Yeah.
Do you know why they changed actors between these two films?
No.
Because the original actor from So the second actor, Corey Feldman in the first one, right?
Well, he got too famous because of
The
he was
Goonies.
filming the Goonies.
Yeah. So forget him.
And also he wasn't right age anymore.
Yeah. So we had whatever the guy was in the creepy guy in the second one. He in the year between these two films became like a devout Christian, and he went to join like Christian school.
Right.
And didn't want anything to do with the film on that basis.
Really?
So yeah, he's like a monk now or something.
Wow. I mean, some might say that he'd already begun his vow of silence during the filming of Friday the...
Yeah, he got into the method.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was quite an intricate survival suggestion. So what was your summary of that?
Take medication.
Take medication.
And don't dig up graves.
Fair enough. Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, closure is an important thing for people.
Yeah. I guess so, but he didn't need to do it. Like literally, the whole thing is because of what he did.
Yeah, hindsight is all well and good, but
would you, if we were doing How to Survive, like before the events of the film,
yeah,
would you say go and dig up Jason's body and burn it, or would you go no, don't do that?
Yeah, all right, fair enough. You'd say no. Why don't you like treat this in a healthy manner?
Yeah,
like
therapy,
and just take his non-appearance in the world as evidence of him not existing.
Do a jigsaw.
Yeah.
Like start a stamp collection, something productive.
Yeah. Well, that was quite an intricate suggestion. Mine's a lot simpler.
Okay.
Wear a life jacket.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the film, Tommy lures Jason out into the middle of the Crystal Lake.
Mm-hmm.
On a boat, and he's got a big boulder on the boat and a big chain, which he just has, and
yeah, that's fine.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And he basically gets into a struggle with Jason, gets pulled into the water, and Jason is holding him underwater. And
that chain's so big.
Yeah, I mean, like we all have them, don't we? Like, and if you've got loads of children running around, what you want is a really heavy chain right next to a lake.
That's an important note. If you haven't seen the film, the chain, the rings of the chain are like as big as two fists together.
Yeah, it's like an anchor chain on like a cruise ship, like that goes through those massive. But yeah, anyway, he's managed to wrap it around a boulder and secure it, and basically. He manages to put a noose around Jason's neck, and the boat gets destroyed, and they get dragged underneath. And Jason's being obviously pinned to the bottom of the lake, or tied to the bottom of the lake by the boulder. But he's grabbed hold of Tommy's leg, so he can't swim away. But if you had a life jacket, depending on the power, the strength of the life jacket, you'd either float outside of his grasp immediately, or there'd be a lot more resistance for Jason to counter. Yeah. Also, he'd float to the surface and be face up, which is very important if because he ends up being dragged out of the water and has to have CPR performed on him by Megan. But
because he's drowned. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So that would help in that respect as well. And it's health and safety basics, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you're not telling me that at a camp where they, specifically cater to young children, they're not going to have a plethora of life jackets available, and
all shapes and sizes.
Exactly, yeah. So basically, wear a life jacket. Wear a life jacket. Megan as well. Why not?
Yeah. All the kids in case they fall in.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Fair enough.
And you'd stand a better chance at not drowning, basically.
Yeah, you kind of get that. One problem.
Yeah.
He doesn't have one. He doesn't necessarily have one. Is it an assumption to assume that there are life jackets available?
He's got access to a massive chain.
Listen, he brought the chain with him.
Yeah, fine, okay. Well, I mean, he does survive anyway, so that's good.
It's a moot point.
But we always.
I agree. It would help.
Yeah. I just think like based on the fact that it's a camp for children. Yeah. They're gonna have I mean, they're going to have life jackets.
The water safety record at Camp Crystal Lake, Chris.
Yeah.
Is subpar.
I mean, a life ring or something. There must be something that's available.
But at least one child is drowned on that river.
Yeah. Well, the same child,
multiple
child.
times.
Yeah. Exactly.
But a question on that, by the way.
Yeah.
Because Tommy's whole plan is to take him back to where his first resting place was.
Yeah.
But surely that isn't his first resting place, because he never actually died there. Otherwise, how did he become a grown man?
That's true, yeah. So what he needed to do was to... Well, that's why it doesn't work, isn't it?
Yeah.
Obviously, because there's more Friday the 13th films to come. Yeah. So what he actually needed to do was take him to his own living room floor.
Yeah.
And then...
That's his first resting place.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. Well, that's a good how to survive tip as well.
Yeah. So you're obviously a safety nut based on this.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, you're wearing a life jacket now.
Yeah, just in case.
Yeah. Another safety point. You've been paintballing.
Yeah.
What's rule 1?
Wear goggles.
Yep. Wear goggles. The one guy isn't wearing goggles, and I was thinking, mate, I've seen Biker Grove. I know how this goes.
Yeah.
He's gonna get shot in the eyes. Now he didn't get shot in the eyes. Instead, he got kind of impaled face first on a tree.
Yeah,
by
which
Jason.
then left a
smiley face.
Smiley face imprint in blood.
Yes. Which is fine.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't have happened. The blood wouldn't have come out, at least, if he was wearing goggles.
Right.
Which he should have been wearing anyway because he's paintballing.
Well, it wouldn't have stopped him getting his arm ripped clean off by Jason, though.
No, but he could have at least made a run for it.
This is how to survive.
Yeah.
What do you mean made a run for it? His arm comes off because he's hurled at like 50 miles an hour against a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you mean, yeah?
But if he was wearing glasses, it would have softened the blow.
It would have, like, wear a pair of glasses that's so, like, non-aerodynamic that he throws him and it just doesn't move at all.
Yeah. Like a kite.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I take your point. You should wear, if you're listening to this and you're planning on paintballing anytime soon, definitely wear goggles.
Yeah.
Don't take this film as advice on how to behave
when in a paintball arena.
Yeah, exactly. But also, I don't think it would have helped in the long run. No.
He had bigger problems at the end of the day.
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that we learned about Jason in this film is that he's easily distracted, Joe.
Really?
Well, there's the scene where he's like a hand squeeze away from killing Megan.
Yeah.
He's picked her up by the face, which is a tried and tested
an MO for Jason.
Jason Voorhees technique. And he's picked her up by the face and he's about to crush her with his bare hands. And Tommy shouts, "Jason, it's me you want."
Yeah.
And he looks over and then starts walking towards Tommy.
Yeah.
Towards the source of the noise. Now, could you have just put him between two big speakers that alternate shouting his name every 5 seconds? So he shuffles towards one for 5 seconds, and then the other one shouts like a dog or, a dumb toddler.
Do you need to have someone to lure him, though? Like, would he walk to a speaker in the same way that he walks to a person?
I don't know. I mean... Yeah, I was about to say he can't see because his eyes have rotted away, but that's the one thing of him that we know hasn't rotted away. Like, how much of an understanding of technology does he have? Does he know what a speaker is?
Well, he died. Well, he
the
disappeared
50s.
for the first time in the 50s.
Yeah.
So he probably has seen a speaker.
I mean, he cuts the electricity to every house that he visits, basically, and phone lines as well.
Yeah, yeah. And he pulls the carburetors out of vehicles so they can't drive and stuff.
Yeah, he smashes the headlight of one of the cars in this.
Very strong understanding of electronics and mechanics.
Okay, so maybe that wouldn't work. Well, yeah, I mean, like, we always try and,
live within your means.
Take the role of whoever's. I mean, like, you could just do it with people.
Yeah, there's plenty of kids there.
Yeah.
I mean, by the way, you said you only just learned that he's easily distracted. I'll remind you at the end of Friday the 13th Part 2.
Yeah.
Jason was distracted by someone wearing a jumper.
Well, this is one thing that I wanted to talk about because they know a lot about Jason, seemingly, because he's become a sort of local myth, local legend,
folk legend.
Yeah, right. So, if I said to you, if I threw out a number of legendary monsters, let's say, so vampires, for example, werewolves, a dragon, right?
Yeah.
How do you kill a vampire?
Stake in the heart, or sunlight, or holy water.
Yeah. How do you kill a werewolf?
Silver bullet.
Yeah. How do you kill a dragon?
Stab it in the heart, or it's got a weak spot somewhere. Yeah. Ice.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So basically, what we've established is that if a monster becomes a sort of mythical presence, then the way of killing them is part and parcel of that legend.
Yes.
Right. So why does nobody know about the secret dress up as Jason Voorhees' mother technique to murdering, to getting the upper hand on him?
Yeah, fair enough.
Because they should do. There's like
that should be like
it should be taught in the local schools.
There should be nursery rhymes about it.
Yeah. I mean, there's nursery rhymes about fucking Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
So
not even how to kill him, just that he will get you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wound me up.
Yeah. I mean, how long does it take for a nursery rhyme to be invented?
I don't know.
At the moment, we're looking at about 15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's should be
plenty.
Yeah.
So the sheriff,
mm-hmm.
He dies by being basically folded in half.
Yeah, which I think is one of the most creative deaths we've had.
Yeah.
As is Sissy, who gets her head like corkscrewed off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which was funny.
You've seen decapitations before, but not one like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you were to stretch, I mean, like, stay nice and supple, because I've seen yogis, pull off like similar moves without dying.
Yeah.
So maybe if the sheriff was some sort of yoga master,
right,
he'd been stretching his midriff.
I don't think yoga people like fold, and also they have to do it like limbered up. They have to have warmed up and stretched and stuff first.
Yeah, the worst it would do is pull a muscle. Wouldn't kill you instantly.
Yeah, but I don't think it's his muscles being torn that kills him. I think it's his spine being folded in half.
Yeah, but your spine can bend.
Yeah, not 180 degrees.
I reckon that way it could. The other way it would be.
How is he supposed to? All right, like turning this around. You said that Tommy wasn't allowed to find the life jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah. How is the sheriff supposed to learn yoga to a level of ability that he's able to?
I think personally, I could get in that position and not die.
You think you could?
I think so.
Well, that's if we do another video podcast at some point, then that's going to be the.
I'll do it now. I'll do it right now.
Okay, Joe's taking his headphones off. He's gotten up, going to the middle of the room. But that's the opposite way. he's doing a sort of rolled back sit up, and is now fallen over. But I should point out that you were bent in a way that people touch their toes, bend, right?
Hold on, I've got my headphones on. I won't be able to hear you.
You were bent as if you're doing like a sit up or something, touching your toes, as opposed to bending literally the opposite way.
Right, so did he go like head to ass?
Yeah.
Oh.
he bent. He was bent
right,
over like
right.
Yeah.
Bent backwards.
Yeah.
No, I thought he went with bent forwards. And that's what killed him. I thought like he was laying on his back and Jason pushed his like ankles over his head.
No, he was on his knees or like on his thighs or leant in a sort of crawling position, and Jason like pushed his chest away in a sort of hinging motion.
Yeah.
And folded him backwards like that.
Well, no, I definitely can't do that.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So at the end of every Friday the 13th movie now, we like to make predictions about what's going to happen next time.
Of course.
So obviously I listened through the last podcast. I listened to it most days.
Mm-hmm.
I think about what we were coming up.
Yeah.
And a couple of interesting ones. Not about this film, but you predicted before Friday the 13th, A New Beginning, that Tommy would be the protagonist in 2 films.
All right. Yeah.
And that has rung true. So congratulations on getting your full point.
Nice.
It was a half point last time.
That was worth it.
You also predicted that there would be an attempt at character development, but you said that would happen in the last film.
Yeah, so I was one
film early, yeah, so no point for you. But for this film, we predicted the following. I predicted that we would return to a lakeside setting.
Okay.
So 1 point to me.
Yeah.
You predicted that a man or woman will have their skull crushed.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, very well.
Yeah.
So very well done. 1 point to you.
Thank you.
I predicted that 2 couples would have sex, and
that doesn't happen.
No, only one couple has sex.
Yeah.
So no point for me.
Yeah.
You predicted that a nerdy character will pursue a girl, and I don't think that does happen in this one.
Well, is Tommy Jarvis a nerd? No.
Not in this one.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Is Jason a nerd? I predicted that there will be more breasts than any previous movie. And this is the first and only one with no breasts. Yeah. And you predicted that more deaths will take place in this movie than any other Friday the 13th movie.
I'm going to say that's not the case.
It is the case.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well,
18. Yeah.
Really?
Or maybe 23. In any case, it is the most so far.
Right.
So I'll give you that point.
Thanks. So I win this round.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah. What predictions do you want to make for next time, which is the
Friday
New Blood?
Yeah, Friday the 13th, the New Blood, yeah.
Okay.
I would say there will be more than 0 breasts.
So a return for breasts.
Yeah.
Okay. I think the protagonist is going to be a girl.
Interesting. What made you say that?
Just changing it up.
Like Ghostbusters. They've had a resurgence of female.
Yeah.
Is it not the same thing? So
Yeah,
do you want Jason as a girl as well?
Yeah, why not? Mate?
Yeah.
Equal opportunities.
Equal opportunities.
Equal, yeah.
That's what like the feminists had in mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
They want a female Jason.
Definitely.
I'm gonna double down on this and say 2 couples will have sex.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, surely doubling down would be 4 couples.
Well, no, because it's 0 in this one. So
Okay.
I'm double down on my bet. Yeah.
Well, how can you double 0?
I'll put 2 points on it. I'm gonna bet 2 points.
No, you can't bet 2.
Yeah, but I'll lose a point if I'm wrong, though.
Right, fine. But we're not keeping an overall tally.
Yeah,
you
but,
mean you lose it for next week?
Yes.
Fine. I think that we will not feature Camp Crystal Lake.
Or a variant of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think a policeman will be killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a policeman will not believe somebody's story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Well, we'll have to wait 10 weeks to find out when that will be episode 61. Up next, episode 52, we are covering The Omen, the Richard Donner 1976 classic about a child.
Yeah, not the remake.
No.
2006.
No.
Starring Liv
Schreiber. Yeah, and
Julia Stiles.
Yeah.
Mia Farrow is the nanny. So that's interesting.
But not in the 1976 version.
No.
So if you haven't seen The Omen, then you've got a week. Go and watch it. It's very good.
Yeah, it's probably one of the best horrors, one of the best movies, maybe.
Yeah, that we've covered, or just generally.
I very much like the film.
Yeah, it's a very good film.
Yeah.
That's a recommendation from us. Go see The Omen.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be covering it next week. In the meantime, if you've got any feedback or thoughts, we'd love to hear it. We love it when people email in. So please do.
Speaking of that, we've had Anne email in.
Anne, as in someone called Anne?
Yeah, Anne's emailed in. Anne says, "Call me Kieran."
Okay.
She doesn't say that, but this is from Kieran.
Yeah.
Lads, please, I really like you guys doing the more mainstream horror movies, like Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'd love you guys to do more of those types of movies, and I know you guys do a lot of them already, but I just love tuning in to hear you guys trying to survive in 80s and 70s worlds. So keep up the good work. So yeah, well, good news. In the next run, we've got a few classics coming up. Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yep.
The Thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know.
And The Omen, obviously, next week.
Yeah,
and
that is in fact a 70s horror. Yeah.
And the week after, we've got The Terminator.
80s.
80s, yeah. So, a smorgasbord of 70s and 80s horror.
Hopefully you'll enjoy that, Kieran.
Yeah.
And we'll look forward to hearing from the rest of you as well on that email again, HowToSurviveShow@gmail.com.
And you can also get in touch with us on Twitter. The Twitter handle is @HowToSurvivePod. We tweet throughout the week, not just when the new episodes are released, but with just funny thoughts and ideas that we might have.
Yeah, nice film news.
Well worth tuning in. So thanks very much for listening.
And of course, as mentioned, you can head over to the How to Survive website, the much maligned How to Survive website. Now, I didn't update it for 20 weeks as an experiment. I wanted to see if the people would miss it, and boy did they. The phones have been lighting up with people saying, "Where's the new picture? Where am I going to buy my DVDs now?" So I've updated it. Yeah. And you can go on there and read show notes. Yeah. You know, if we'd mentioned a video, I don't know if we did in this one, I can't remember, but I'll put it on there. and you can see it. So HowToSurviveShow.com. That's HowToSurviveShow.com.
So thanks very much for listening. That was episode 51. Next week, episode 52, The Omen. Please tune in again next week. Joe, will you be listening?
Listening? What do you think I am? A fart head?